Hello, this is Deanne. Welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video, reading Clockwork Chronicles or Hermitcraft, Redstone Infestation. I messed up last time saying last week was part 5. This is technically part 7. Last week was part 6. Or however I decided to work this out because, yeah. I don't know. This, part thing is a little bit shorter than other ones, which is fine, and that's kind of what I want to do. Just play a little bit, test a little bit, see what people are willing to do. People are willing to listen to more chapters or just one chapter. We'll see. Anyway, moving on to chapter 14, and we're going to see how far we go. I will try to finish it all in this video, but it might be possible I'll just have the finale episode on next week, but we'll see. Chapter 14. Grian opened his eyes quickly when he heard a noise. Not realized he'd fallen asleep as he pushed himself from the wall, getting to his feet as he heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Just a single pair of footsteps as he noticed his friend get to his feet and walk to the door, peering out a small window to see what was going on. "Who is it?" Grian asked, as the footsteps grew louder. "It's one of Mr. A's men. They just went into the laboratory to grab something," the hermit reported with a frown. "He didn't seem to be carrying anything." "Did he see you?" Grian asked curiously. "Don't think he was paying attention." Impulse frowned, as the lights suddenly flickered again, having stopped for some time, probably due to Skid's falling asleep. Now the YouTuber had to be awake. Was he doing in there? Korean swallowed, as his stomach growled. The footsteps soon returned as he heard a door open and close. His impulse gasped. What is it? He just went into Skid's room with some sort of thing in his hand. Impulse said warily, grabbing for the door handle as the lights flashed again. I think it was a syringe or something. Grian opened his mouth to say something more, just as he heard a scream down the end of the room, as the lights exploded to life, flashing frantically as the iron trap doors flapped madly, as the Impulse immediately slammed open the door, running down the hall. "Impulse, don't!" Grian shouted as he went over to the door, seeing his friend rounding a corner as another shout could be heard. Grian cautiously looked at the stairwell as he stepped out of the cell and walked over to where his friend had run to. "What did you do?" Impulse demanded angrily. "How did you get out of your cell?" The helpless man under the hermit replied, struggling to shove the hermit off him. "Someone left the doors unlocked," Grian stated calmly. "Why?" the man asked as they finally shoved the hermit off him. "No need to threaten me. I was just giving him some of the regular doses. You practically re-injected him with that virus, didn't you? Don't you lie," Impulse said, as he got to his feet. "I guess." Grian, hearing Skid's pain, gasped as he saw that indeed the virus had spread a little bit more. "It's part of the experiment we're doing, giving him a little each day to see if he gets any immunity to it. So you can create your antidote and stay safe while others around you die?" Impulse retorted. Grian warily taking a step back. "Not sure what to think about the situation. This isn't humane." "Well, are you and your friends doing any better?" the man asked. "I'm just a scientist here, not a criminal." "How many innocent people have you killed?" Impulse snapped. That's not important," the man said quickly, taking out a communicator. "You shouldn't be out of your cells to begin with." "Don't you even," Impulse exclaimed, as he tackled the man again, the communicator flying through the air as Grian ran over and grabbed it, holding it in his hand for a moment before pocketing it. His friend yelped in surprise, being tossed off the scientist. "Give that back," the scientist warned, as he narrowed his eyes at the hermit as Impulse got back to his feet. "Only if you promise not to tell the other guys where we were out," Grian pointed out. "And that you scrap all your experimentations." "No, I can't do that," the scientist laughed nervously as Skid groaned again. "I'm so close to a solution." "So are we," Grian replied matter-of-factly. Right, because you have the one person who survived getting the virus twice. The scientist snapped. His eyes gleaming over as a different, stranger expression appeared. A bemused, almost joyful smile. A longing smile, as the man looked at the hermit. Maybe you could help me get in touch with him. Absolutely not, Impulse snapped. You heard Green's verdict. He's not giving you your precious gadget unless you help us stop this madness. What are you going to do if I decline that offer? The scientist asked casually as he stepped toward the cell door. You know you can't leave us with it, Green warned. We could call Rose, easily. I know the coordinates by heart. Do you? The man asked, raising his skeptical eyebrow. What about your friend? Stop that, Impulse said firmly. We're not letting you get anywhere close to beat-ups. Shame, the man shrugged before he turned to the door. I guess I'll just hope that I can get one of those men to get him for me. Don't let him get away, Green warned, as the man bolted for the stairway as the two hermits charged after him. Green, noticing Impulse, stopped and turned back. You go on ahead, I need to get the keys, Impulse told him quickly. No, not alone, Green insisted, as the man disappeared up the stairs, turning to his friend. I'll go to the lab to see if I can find any ingredients for invisibility bushes. Smart, Impulse nodded, as he bolted back to the cell as Green went into the lab, opening chest after chest, trying to find what he needed. Unfortunately, there wasn't too much. There weren't any ingredients he needed to make invisibility either. Just weakness, speed, and other unfortunate ones like poison and slowness. Just imagine that with a redstone virus. That would not be good. You can make it go faster, you can make it go slower. The slower you do it, the more painful it is. Yeah. There's nothing here, Green called back as he ran out of the room. Seeing Impulse walking out of the cell with a weakened skid leaning on him with an arm around his shoulders. I'll have to make do then, Impulse replied matter-of-factly. We don't have much of a choice right now. So men will probably be down here to try and stop us from getting out. Yeah, but that's the only way out, and we don't have a pickaxe, Green insisted. There's gotta be some cobblestone and wood in one of those chests. At least. Or maybe even iron, Impulse pressed. As Green nodded, going back to look again. Indeed, finding what he needed to craft a pickaxe. As he scrambled, his heart pounding in his ears as he started to hear the first hint of footsteps. Someone's coming, Impulse warned, his voice sounding distant as Green ran out of the lab, finding his friend. I crafted a few, since we don't know how far down we are, Green said quickly, as Impulse nodded, stepping aside. We'll be right behind you, Impulse reported. Green seen his kids nodding weakly, as the hermit broke through the wall, starting to create a stairway up. I'm not sure this is going to work, Green warned, as he tossed his friend some blocks. See if you can't try to block the other way. Can you? It might buy us a little time. We'll try, Impulse nodded, as he threw the blocks down with his free hand, trying his best not to let go of his keys. But Green wasn't paying attention to that, as he tried to stare upward, hearing distant voices from below. I'm going to figure out where we went pretty quickly, Impulse said nervously. I know, I just want to slow them down. They don't know exactly where we'll end up, Green pointed out. Neither do we, Impulse pressed, sounding uneasy. For all we know, we'll end up in some sort of barracks and surrounded by those guys. We don't even have any way to defend ourselves. Yeah, these, Green mused, holding up the pickaxe. How's that going to help? Impulse asked quickly. Better than nothing, Skiz pointed out, sounding exhausted. No one said any more, as Green kept building upward, stopping when he heard footsteps above them. I think we're at the surface, Green whispered. I'm going to dig a little bit so we aren't anywhere near the footsteps. Do what you have to, Impulse nodded as Skiz stumbled, his face shockingly pale in the darkness. You okay? Not sure I can keep walking like this, Dippletop, the YouTuber admitted. Getting too much. Try for as much as you can, please, Impulse insisted before he hesitated. Just realized we can't fly out of here. Yeah, Green nodded. I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. A few minutes passed until he could no longer hear footsteps as he finished the stairway up to the surface. As moonlight filled the tunnel, he quietly peeked out into the forest area, not seeing any monsters nearby that could threaten them as he climbed out of the tunnel, followed by his friends. Maybe now's a good time to use the communicator, Impulse offered as Green went for his pocket and pulled it out, putting in some coordinates as he tried to make a call. Beat-ups? Green asked after hearing a voice through the device. Yeah, how's everything going? We're almost there, Beat-up said calmly. We made it out, Green replied. Skids is with us, but he's in a lot of pain. He needs immediate attention. Where are you? Do you know where any of the other of our bases are from here? Not really. I don't recognize this place at all, Green admitted, looking around him, glancing over at Impulse, hoping for some guidance. The other Hermit only shook his head and shrugged. Try not to get too far. I'll see if I can find you, Peter said quickly. Hang in there. We are doing the best we can, Impulse said, as the Hermit matter-of-factly. He glanced over his shoulder as light passed somewhere beyond the trees as he gulped. We need to hide. Hey, what do you think you're doing? A voice shouted from within the trees. Run! Green cried as he scrambled into the trees, hearing running footsteps before he heard a scream. He looked over his shoulder, seeing Impulse being tackled to the ground, Skids rolling helplessly to the side as one of the Stray's men pounced on him. Impulse! Green! Green! Just take Skids and go! Impulse pleaded as Green watched Skids manage to sit up. That's not happening, Skids said weakly as he mustered his strength and shoved the man off the Hermit. Skids, no! Impulse cried as Green ran back to help the YouTuber as he was shoved off. The man standing as he turned to face them, the Hermit stopping in his tracks. They were now surrounded. You really shouldn't have done that, one of the men said simply, his voice sounding awfully familiar as a chill went down the Hermit's spine. You should have run while you still had the chance. Green! Impulse screamed as the Hermit whirled around, ducking as a firework launched over his head as he saw one of the men tackle his friend to the ground. Moments before he too was knocked to the ground, groaning as he hit his head hard on the earth, seeing stars as he felt something strange fill his nose. As something was placed over his mouth and nose. Everything soon faded to black, as he still heard his friend calling out his name. The communicator was no longer in his hand either, having flown into the darkness somewhere. Beat-ups probably had heard the entire thing go down, but that didn't matter. Nothing seemed to. Chapter 15. Green opened his eyes wearily, rubbing them as he managed to sit up. The ground beneath him was damp and cool, darkness still prominent as a few stray stars peeked through the trees. Green, you're awake! Beat-up's voice called in relief as Green looked over to see his friend stand up, having been with his escort tending to an unconscious Skids. The Hermit could see through the dim light that the red veins seemed to have receded quite a bit, decreasing even more as he watched for a moment. Whatever the two of them had given him was working. Where's Impulse? Green asked, immediately realizing quickly that the other Hermit was nowhere to be seen as he stumbled to his feet. He was taken back to the headquarters, I believe. Beat-ups frowned. Caden and Blake went to look for him. I need to go find them, Green said quickly, brushing himself off. They won't know where they took him. Do you? Beat-ups replied wearily. Yeah, I have a very good idea. Green nodded as he looked over at Skids nervously. He'll be okay? Yes, of course. Beat-ups nodded reassuringly. Besides, I wanted to take you somewhere, well, safe. You can't tell me where? Green asked. Not out here, no. Beat-ups laughed before his expression grew more serious. If you want to catch up with them, you better go. I've got things here. Okay, thanks, Green said eagerly as he bolted back toward where he knew the headquarters would be. As he noticed people moving out of the front door, being calmly escorted by cause members who had come with Beat-ups. It was a team of YouTubers and normal individuals alike, as Green barely held back a smile. Hey! A familiar voice shouted as Green turned, seeing the familiar helmet and glowing blue eyes of the man from before. Your friends went inside. You might want to hurry in there. Thanks, Green called back, feeling a little more reassured, knowing that the man hadn't seriously hurt the man who had helped him earlier. He'd have to thank him properly next time he had a chance. If he ever saw him again, of course. Of course, I'm not saying who it was, who it is. But if you've been paying attention, you would already know. Clockwork Chronicles. Short stories. It's in there. Green ran inside the building, calling out for the escorts, spotting two figures at the end of the hallway. Blake, Gaden! Gran, what are you doing here? Gaden asked hurriedly. The two escorts spotted him and caught up with him. I thought you were meant to be with beat-ups. I know where they took Impulse, Green said quickly. I wanted to save you some time. Blake smiled and nodded. Right away. The hermit did as he was told, filled with questions as he noted the boy was thankfully unharmed. He wasn't sure how he was able to get out of that sticky situation from earlier in the day, but that didn't matter. He found the stairs and started his descent, skipping down every 3 steps as they went down each flight, until they made it to the bottom. As the hermit heard voices, Green ran into the room toward the laboratory, the voices growing louder as the vault gear started to turn. There's no point struggling at this point. You two were clearly warned, one voice said firmly. You can't do this, Impulse's voice demanded, as the Green made it to the entrance, looking in as he saw one of the men holding his friend tightly with one arm as he fiddled with some difficulty with the other hand opened the vault. Gran! Gran could see the terror in his friend's eyes as Blake pushed the hermit behind him as the captor's attention shifted to him. Why, it looks like help did actually come after all, the man said in a mock cheery tone as he smiled. Step away from the vault, Caden warned, as he stepped in front of Gran as well, holding out a sword. Now why would I do that? The man asked in a calm voice, chuckling as the hermit in his other arm squirmed helplessly. When I was given orders to do what I must to punish your friends when they go out of line. I wouldn't normally be so harsh, but he's not the one who made the call. I did, Gran said quickly, startling the man as the hermit interrupted him. I told Rose everything, where they to find us, and how many prisoners I thought there were here. I told her how you tried to keep us separated and planned to torment Impulse with the knowledge of Skid's being here, being tortured for experimentation. Oh, he would have been next if his friend wasn't strong enough. The man shrugged. Alas, it looks like we have to see the hard way. It doesn't matter who did or didn't do it. What matters is that Mr. A gets the final say. You do realize that there are at least 1,000 of those things down there, right? Caden asked warily. If you slip, you're also a goner. Well, maybe that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. The man shrugged as he took a step backwards, slipping off the side down toward the bottom of the vault as Green heard his friend's horrified scream. No! Green exclaimed as Blake immediately charged forward and lunged down after them with his wings as Green went to see what was happening, being grabbed by the arm as he looked back. Caden shook his head and held up a single finger as the hermit swallowed. He could hear the faint sound of hissing arthropods below as Silverfish slithered with glee, unsure if he wanted to know what the crunching noises were, as a firework rocket could be heard as someone flew out of the hole. You could see Blake landing on the floor in front of the vault as he released whoever he was holding. Impulse! Green cried again as he ran over to his friend and tackled him into a hug. You could see his friend's face was ghostly pale. He held his friend tighter, tears in his eyes falling down his face. So good to be out of there, he gasped at last, able to speak as Graham pulled away, as the hermit went to the nearby wall and leaned next to it. Those things. It's like 1,000 scorpions charging toward me. I couldn't move. It was terrifying. He shook his head. I'm glad you're okay, at least, Green reassured him, putting his hand on his friend's shoulder as the other hermit tried to calm himself down. I'm not even sure how I managed to survive that, he admitted. 1 second I was falling, and the next I heard squishing sounds underneath me. I pulled myself away from the man, just as 100 of those things climbed all over him. I couldn't look. It was... Ugh! Well, at least one less of those men to deal with, Blake said calmly as Green looked over to see what he was doing. Blocking the hole was something awfully familiar. Is that TNT? Green asked curiously, as Blake placed the final block and pulled out a flint and steel. Yep, it should deal with these monstrosities, Blake sighed, as he lit each block as they plummeted to the ground. Slamming the door shut as the floor under their feet shook, as Green heard hundreds, if not 1,000, screeches of pain. The creatures immediately got blown to smithereens. I think we should leave the team to deal with these, unless you want to see a light show. How dangerous would that be? Green asked curiously, as Impulse finally looked up, his face now returning to its natural color. He still looked shaken, but overall, fine. He's going to need to have a wardrobe change when you get a chance to. That's the wrong too, the other hermit admitted, gesturing to his red-stained black tea. I got toxic redstone goo all over. Yuck. Green shuddered. The other hermit smiled. Come on, you two. We need to get going. The others are waiting. Caden assured them, ushering the hermits out of the room as a few people entered from the stairwell. What you're looking for is in there, Green said quickly, pointing at the lab behind them. Thanks, one of them exclaimed, as Green followed his friends up the fled stairs. He didn't dare look back as he heard Impulse asking about Skates, only to be reassured by the escorts that he was indeed safe, and that he would be able to see him soon. I'm surprised none of them didn't bite you, Green admitted, as he caught up to his friend. I know, Impulse chuckled nervously. At least we don't have to worry about that anymore. I agree, Green said happily, as he arrived at the top floor, heading out to the front door without any resistance. They made it to the clearing as he looked around. So, are we going to walk there, or are we flying? I have a couple of spare wings and rockets for you two, Gaden said quickly, handing one to Green before giving one to Impulse, adding nonchalantly, might want to dunk this in a cauldron with your shirt after. Should take care of the goo. Got it, Impulse smiled gravely as he donned on the wings, though having a quick swim could do it too. Your call, Gaden shrugged with a smile, as the hermits and protectors flew into the air, the hermits following the escorts, staying relatively close to one another, just in case. Okay. 20 minutes. Good. We can do this. Chapter 16. Let's do this. Can I have a drink of water first? Yeah. Let's have that. Quick sip. Green could see Jim and Pearl's base up ahead. The wall still fortifying the boundary as the hermits spotted someone waiting for them outside. The hermit's face lit up as they landed to the ground, happy to see that B-Dubs had managed to get back in one piece. What happened to you? B-Dubs teased as he looked over at the two of them. A long story, really, Impulse admitted with a nervous chuckle. Is there some water inside I could borrow for a quick clean? Of course, B-Dubs said eagerly. I'm sure Jim wouldn't mind. Skizz is resting right now at the moment anyway, so you've got time. Good, Impulse sighed in relief as he immediately ran inside, disappearing around the open door as Green looked at B-Dubs. Everything go well? Green asked curiously. Everyone got out safely. Mr. A's men retreated once they realized they were outnumbered. I'm surprised some got past us. I mean, we did make a tunnel from the last floor, so it's not hard to think they might have used it. Green shrugged casually. I'm glad everyone made it out okay. Can't really say that for a lot of things, especially for those we couldn't save. Hey, we did something at least. It mattered to those people back there. Beat-up said proudly. Why don't you come inside and let the escorts do their work? We can have a good chat. Sure, Green said contentedly as he glanced over his shoulder, seeing that, sure enough, the escorts were keeping an eye out on the perimeter. The wall was far thicker than he'd remembered it last, and bigger, enough for people to walk on top of it. People have been busy. Definitely, B-Dubs agreed as he went inside, Green following him as he closed the door, glancing toward the window, hesitating whether or not he should cover it with the curtains or leave it. Are you hungry? I know it's pretty late, but I don't know if the guys gave you anything. I didn't get a chance. I used it to try to escape. Green mused with a smile. Alright. Beatus chuckled as he opened the chest, carrying over some remaining soup. It's not fresh, but it still smells good. Better than nothing. Green nodded as he yawned. Are you sure it's safe here? Especially with Messiah still away? He, Jim, Pearl, and Pearl the Skirt should be back tomorrow. Probably before you wake up, Beat-Up said brightly, with a smile. Everything's okay now where they are at, and Matthias needs to help Blake disband the backup group. I mean, it wasn't a horrible idea. We just need to find the right way to do it. Green sighed, shaking his head. Did Scar's new escort come in yet? Oh, yes. Caleb came earlier today after the ambush. He arrived to find us cowering in a room and take his base. Beatus laughed. He's a nice kid. Oh, that's great. Green replied happily. Scar's doing better, though? Much better, Beatus replied matter-of-factly. He's mostly back to his old self. But hey, this stuff happens. I hope Caleb can handle it then. Especially with the stuff that might be coming our way. Green replied nervously. Uh-oh, what happened? Beat-Up asked, his eyebrows raising in surprise. Before Green could reply, they were interrupted by the sound of footsteps on the stairs. They both looked up to see Impulse climbing down with a freshly clean shirt and wings. The hermit smiled down at them, and they quickly met up with them. Feeling better? Green asked him out hopefully. Yeah, much better. The other hermit chuckled. I had to wash my hands really well after that. I can't risk getting infected, even if it doesn't happen from the goo. Ugh. Beat-Up groaned. That's the worst, huh? At least it wasn't worse, Impulse chuckled. Blake swooped in very fast to get me out of there. That's good, Beat-Up replied in relief, before clearing his throat, and Green nodded. Now, Green, about what you said earlier. Well, Green said slowly, Mr. A made some threats to both of us if we were ever to escape again. Yeah, he wants us out of the picture entirely. Any way he can at this point, Impulse admitted with a sheepish smile. We keep stopping him, and he really doesn't like that. No kidding, Beat-Up giggled. So he's after you for real? I don't know how he'll do it, especially since many of his first options were either captured or killed. Impulse mused before he frowned, glancing out the window. Doesn't mean he can't do it. There can't be a jailbreak, though. Hopefully that doesn't happen, Beat-Up said with a frown. We should probably tell your escorts to give them a heads up. And Caleb, too. Get him some extra help just in case, Green admitted. Scar's a very easy target right now, and I don't want to give those guys any chances. Spread the word, Beat-Up nodded, as both hermits yawned. Beat-Up chuckled again. Why don't you two get some sleep? We can talk about everything that happened in the morning, okay? You got it, Beat-Up. Sorry. Impulse nodded as Green looked down at the empty bowl in his hand, not realizing he'd consumed all of its contents. Good night, Beat-Ups, Green said cheerfully, as he put the bowl on the side, hearing his friend's reply as Impulse followed shortly behind. Once they arrived at the stairs, he looked over at his friend. Can you believe all this happened in one day? No, Impulse shook his head. I feel it was a week or at least, but a day? I guess it goes to show how strong we can be when we work together. Green mused with a nod. See you in the morning. You too, Impulse said happily, as he went to the bedroom. Green took the one across from him, falling into the bed, exhausted. Hopefully tomorrow would be a bit more relaxing, giving him the time to be with his friends, while he waited for things to cool down before returning home to his base again. Even then, he knew that it was far from over. Mr. A was still out there. He had to be. He would not be too happy to learn how everything fell apart because of him and Impulse. He let out an exasperated sigh. I said that right first time. As he closed his eyes, not wanting to think about it as he drifted off to sleep. He was safe, and he wasn't alone. That was the best ever hopeful. That is the end of this book. But there is more to come. Of course. I am currently working on another story that I'm going to probably read later, probably closer to when this starts coming out, because I want to improve that and then decide if I want more storylines. especially since there is an idea in my head that I'm going through right now that would be interesting, that would get Mumbo involved, because I feel like Mumbo needs some more time to shine. Like, because, like, Gran and Mumbo are best friends, too, not just Scar and Gran. Like, that friendship I've developed, but I haven't really developed Gran and Mumbo's as much. That's something I want to change. But that's not going to be this story. It's going to be maybe next story. I don't know. That's not going to be the story that I'm writing now. That story is for something else. Yeah. That's potentially leading into that story. I just try and figure out what exactly I want to do to get to that point. But yeah. It's a work in progress. And yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully next time my voice will sound better. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Whenever that might be. If you have any theories, questions, or ideas for stories, you can leave them down in the comments below. I will look at them. And I will think about it. Because, yeah. There are stuff that I've left open that I can have a little fun with. Because this is fan fiction. This is fan-made. This world is not Hermitcraft. It's not any season. It's just a mesh of everything. Like, but there are ideas from other seasons that I could put in here if I wanted to. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one, whatever that might be.